Ravinder Singh, Kiran Singh, and their two children went to sleep in a house that had always felt safe, unaware that by morning their family name would be tied to one of Australia's most disturbing and longest-running murder mysteries. The Singh family lived in a calm suburban street where days passed without incident and nights were quiet. Their home blended in, painted in soft colors, surrounded by trimmed hedges and a locked gate that rarely opened to strangers. Neighbors often noticed the house because of its order and silence. Nothing ever seemed wrong. That sense of normal life ended on a cold morning when the house showed no signs of activity. The lights were off, the curtains remained closed, and the front door stayed shut far longer than usual. When police entered the home, the stillness felt unnatural. Inside, time appeared frozen. Furniture was untouched, and personal items were neatly arranged, as if the family had simply vanished. Instead, investigators discovered the horrifying truth. Members of the Singh family were found dead in different parts of the house. There was no struggle, no broken locks, and no mess that suggested panic. The scene felt controlled, almost deliberate, which immediately raised fear and confusion. What troubled investigators most was what they did not find. There were no signs of forced entry. No weapon was clearly identified. Expensive belongings were left behind, ruling out robbery. The house gave nothing away. It was as if the walls themselves were hiding the truth. From the very beginning, officers sensed this case would not follow normal rules. The quiet home, once a symbol of safety, became the center of a mystery that would stretch on for years, leaving investigators with questions that refused to fade. From the outside, the Singh family appeared stable and well-settled. They followed routines, attended community events, and avoided unnecessary attention. Friends described them as private but polite, the kind of family that kept problems behind closed doors. Their children performed well in school, and the adults maintained steady work. Nothing suggested chaos or danger. This public image became one of the biggest obstacles for investigators trying to understand what went wrong. As police examined the family's background, subtle warning signs began to surface. Financial records showed growing pressure that had never been discussed openly. There were recent loans, delayed payments, and unexplained withdrawals that pointed to stress building quietly over time. Personal schedules revealed exhaustion and isolation, with fewer social interactions than before. The family had slowly pulled away from others, creating a closed world where problems stayed hidden. Investigators also noticed changes in daily habits during the months before the murders. Regular routines had shifted without explanation. Important appointments were missed, and travel plans were suddenly canceled. These details suggested tension beneath the surface, yet no one outside the home had recognized the danger. There was no history of violence, no police reports, and no known conflicts with others. This lack of a clear motive made the case deeply unsettling. The idea that such extreme violence could grow inside a seemingly normal household shocked the public. The more investigators searched, the clearer it became that the truth was buried beneath years of silence, pressure, and unspoken struggles that no one had seen coming. The investigation moved quickly in the early days, driven by pressure from the media and fear spreading through the community. Every corner of the Singh family home was examined in detail. Floors, walls, doors, and furniture were tested again and again. Forensic teams collected fingerprints, fibers, and tiny traces of evidence, hoping one small detail would break the case open. But each result brought the same answer. Everything found inside the house belonged to the family themselves. There was no unknown presence, no clear intruder left behind. Outside the home, police expanded their search. Neighbors were interviewed, streets were checked, and nearby businesses were reviewed for any useful footage. One nearby camera had stopped recording days before the crime, an issue that could not be fully explained. Other cameras showed nothing unusual, no suspicious vehicles, no strangers walking through the area. It was as if the crime had happened without leaving a shadow. A strange item recovered from the scene briefly gave investigators hope. It did not belong to the family and appeared out of place. For a moment, it seemed like the missing piece. Tests were rushed through labs, but the results were disappointing. There was no match in any database. The object led nowhere, joining a growing list of unanswered questions. Tips flooded in from across Australia. Some claimed to have seen someone near the house. Others suggested secret enemies or hidden disputes. Each lead demanded time and resources, but one by one, they collapsed. Witness accounts failed under closer examination. Timelines did not match. Locations could not be confirmed. What seemed promising in theory fell apart in reality. As weeks turned into months, the case slowed. Investigators revisited the crime scene repeatedly, hoping fresh eyes might catch something missed before. Small details were rechecked, measurements retaken, and reports rewritten. Still, nothing new emerged. The lack of progress became frustrating and deeply unsettling. Crimes of this scale usually leave chaos behind. This one left only silence. One detail continued to disturb detectives. The crime showed no signs of panic or disorder. There was no evidence of a sudden fight or rushed decisions. Everything suggested calm control. Whoever was responsible moved with purpose and confidence. This raised the frightening possibility that the person knew the house well, understood the family's routines, and felt no fear while committing the act. Public interest slowly faded as new cases took attention. Media coverage became less frequent, and the Singh family home stood empty, sealed by unanswered questions. Investigators felt the weight of failure, knowing that somewhere the truth was slipping further away. Files grew thicker, but clarity remained out of reach. Even as the case grew cold, detectives refused to close it. They understood that some crimes wait years before revealing their secrets. Evidence that means nothing today can become vital tomorrow. Advances in technology offered hope, but for now, the clues remained scattered and incomplete. The investigation into the Singh Family Massacre became a lesson in absence. No witnesses, no clear motive, no obvious suspect. Every path led to the same place: uncertainty. The case did not explode with shocking discoveries or dramatic arrests. Instead, it slowly sank into a quiet darkness, where every unanswered question made the mystery deeper and more disturbing. Years after the murders, the case was reopened by a new team determined to question everything that had been accepted as fact. They treated the original conclusions with caution and began rebuilding the timeline from the ground up. Small inconsistencies started to appear. Certain movements inside the house did not match the original time estimates. This suggested that events may have started earlier than believed, changing the entire structure of the case. Investigators focused on overlooked records and patterns that once seemed unimportant. Phone activity, utility usage, and daily routines were reviewed with fresh eyes. What emerged was a disturbing possibility that the tragedy did not happen suddenly. Instead, it may have been the final moment of a long and hidden process. Pressure, control, and fear could have been growing quietly, unnoticed by anyone outside the home. Several theories emerged, each darker than the last. One suggested manipulation from someone trusted. Another pointed toward a slow breakdown driven by stress and secrecy. None could be proven, yet all felt uncomfortably plausible. The absence of forced entry continued to push attention inward rather than outward. Then came an unexpected development. An anonymous message reached authorities, claiming knowledge of the crime and referencing details never released to the public. The information was accurate enough to cause alarm, but vague enough to avoid verification. Before investigators could trace the source, the contact disappeared completely. This moment reignited public interest, but delivered no resolution. Instead of answers, it added another layer of mystery. The case shifted once more, leaving investigators torn between new possibilities and the same haunting lack of proof that had defined the case from the beginning. Decades have passed, yet the Singh Family Massacre remains unresolved, refusing to fade into history. The case files have been reopened multiple times, each review bringing a brief surge of hope before returning to silence. Advances in forensic science have allowed old evidence to be tested again, but the results have offered no final breakthrough. What once seemed like solid facts now feel fragile, and what was ignored before now raises troubling questions. The house where the murders occurred no longer looks the same, but its story continues to cast a shadow. New families have come and gone, unaware of the fear that once filled those rooms. For investigators, the location remains a reminder of how easily darkness can hide behind ordinary walls. The lack of closure has left a permanent mark on those who worked the case, many of whom still believe the truth is close, yet unreachable. Public interest rises whenever the case is mentioned, especially among those drawn to unsolved mysteries. The idea that someone may have walked away without consequence continues to disturb the nation. Every so often, a new tip arrives, or an old theory resurfaces, but none have led to justice. The Singh family are remembered not only as victims, but as the center of one of Australia's most haunting mysteries. Until clear answers emerge, the case remains open, suspended in time. Somewhere, the missing truth still exists, waiting to be uncovered, ensuring the mystery will not rest.